All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our February 29th Commission meeting. I'm Chair Valerie Sullivan, and I am excited that today is a leap year day. So it should be a great yet very busy agenda, and we're looking forward to going through this very meaty, many meaty topics. So I am joined here by designee Cassandra Roder, designee Rebecca Butler, Elizabeth Shabbat, Toby Choate, Tamara Davis, Jane Edmonds, Joe Gentile, Eileen McEnany, Melissa Murphy Rodriguez, Jason Silva, Anna Seneko, Timothy Sullivan, Bobby Kaplan, our vice chair, and is Gerzino Gerard on? Not yet. Those are the commissioners that are here today. And I want to thank all of them for their service as we enter a new year. And I'm going to turn it over to Matt now to approve, to review the agenda before I approve the minutes. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, commissioners. Thank you again for joining us. Happy Leap Year Day. If we can move to the agenda slide, the first two items, the two items on the agenda for today, in addition to our routine items. The first, Erica Shabelli, our Deputy Executive Director, will give a report out on the public information sessions that we held last month. And those, of course, are to give our members an update on plan design and the aggregate rate projections for fiscal 2025. Then we will have CFO Jim Rust and Director of Policy and Analytics Margaret Anschutz, who will present on the FY25 rates. As we usually do, the rates votes there'll be several of them, 3 votes taking during the portion of this meeting to cover all of the various programs that we have. So that's what we have for you today.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So at this point, now that we know we've got a very busy agenda here, let's go back to the minutes from our January meeting, and I will entertain a vote to approve them.
So moved.
So Jane.
Second.
And I think that was Toby.
Mm-hmm.
Joe? Yeah, Toby. All right. So I will ask Andrew to take roll call, but I'm yay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vice Chair Kaplan,
Yay.
Designee Roder,
Yay.
Designee Butler,
Yay.
Commissioner Shabbat,
Yes, sorry.
thank you. Commissioner Choate,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Edmonds,
Yes.
Commissioner Gentile,
Yes.
and I just want to make sure Gerzino hasn't joined. Commissioner McEnany,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy Rodriguez,
Yes.
Commissioner Silva,
Yes.
Commissioner Sullivan,
Yes.
and Commissioner Seneko.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
All right, great. Well, let's move on to the agenda.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. Per usual, we'll review quickly our Executive Director's report. It's a brief written report this month, but I did just want to highlight 2 items from the Human Resources section. Over the years, you've often heard from Mike Berry as the GIC's Director of Government Affairs when he would provide updates to the Commission on matters regarding the legislature and municipalities. Mike has recently left the GIC to take a new role at the City of Watertown. We thank Mike for his many, many contributions to the GIC and really wish him well in this new role. He's been a terrific contribution to the team. I encourage anyone in Mike's absence with legislative or municipal items to reach out to Deputy Executive Director Erica Schiavelli. So thank you, Mike, for your service. We will miss you. We are also on the HR front pleased to welcome Hannah Jackson as the newest addition to our operations department and the audit unit. Welcome, Hannah. Outside of HR, I just want to note that work is proceeding smoothly on our efforts to close the gap in coverage for new hires, and we are on track to implement that change on July 1st, which is according to our plan. So a lot of work happening across the organization on that. So with that, I'm happy to take questions about the written report.
I don't see any questions. You may have mentioned this. Is there a plan in place for backfilling Mike's position?
We are working on that and hope to post a new position very soon. It would likely make a few adjustments. We always take this as an opportunity to kind of adjust job responsibilities depending on, what needs we've emerged over the time that, we've had that job in its current position. So making a few tweaks and we'll be posting it soon. Frankly, we can't afford to have it lie vacant for very long.
Yeah. All right, very good. All right, well, let's keep moving. Oh, Jane has her hand up.
I just wanted to thank Matt for including the written report in the materials. I think that that's a good move for all of us to have a chance just to think about any questions we want to raise. So thank you.
Yep, happy to do it. Thank you. It's a little lighter this month just because we've had so much going on in preparation for this meeting.
All right. Well, it gave us a good summary of what else is going on besides rates, so we appreciate it. All right, let's keep moving.
All right, moving on to the calendar. Because today's meeting is later in the month than a typical meeting would be, there will be no meeting in March, no need for a meeting in March, as we sometimes do. There will also not be a meeting in April. Of course, that will be our high busy season with annual enrollment, and we want to be able to focus on executing that as well as we can. The next meeting, therefore, will be on May 16th. And at that meeting, the commission will vote to authorize use of our GIC trust funds. Again, this is an item we do annually. In addition, our data analytics department will present the out-of-pocket report. They've been spending a good deal of time working on that for you. And lastly, you'll hear an update regarding our work to reduce the waiting period for new hires that I mentioned before. And then we will also have a vote on updated regulations around municipalities that we presented to you back in December. Andrew and his team have been going through the process of hearings and adjustments based on what we hear to those regulations. So a lot of work happening in that space. In June, we will return to provide you the report on our FY25 annual enrollment. And we also look forward to having our colleagues at the Center for Health Information and Analysis, known as CHIA. They've been working on a prescription drug report, and we look forward to having some really solid insights that we can apply to our thinking and our work here. So that is the projected calendar through the remainder of this fiscal year, and I'm happy to take any questions.
I don't see any, Matt. Oh, Bobby has her hand up. I spoke too soon.
Yes, you did speak too soon. Sorry. I was just going to ask if I think at our last meeting, I asked about the migration data of the providers, how many had moved in, and I was wondering if you had that information, as well as how many active employees are enrolled in long-term disability.
Mhm.
So I was wondering if you had that information yet.
And Bobby, you also asked another question I noted in the minutes about how many active members have become retirees.
Yes, yes, I did. Yeah.
Way to go,
I
Jane.
said, thank you, Jane, for reminding me about that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good reminder. Thank you, Bobby. And I know the team has been working to gather that information. I'll circle back with them after the meeting to check on status and make sure we get that to you ASAP.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. All right, if there are no questions, we can move on to our next item. And I'd like to introduce our Deputy Executive Director, Erica Schbelli, to present the report on our public information sessions. Erica?
Morning. Thanks, Matt. Good morning, commissioners. Leslie, you can go ahead and move to the next slide, please. So as you all know, we every year we host our public information sessions for the benefit of our members and also for GIC coordinators who tend to join as well. These are an opportunity for us to review the rate setting process and just to bring folks up to speed with the GIC, what we do, and what they can expect for the upcoming year. So this year we held them the week of January 22nd, I think was that Monday. We had 3 sessions. We hosted them all virtually. And we did them at a different kind of range of times to hopefully allow various folks to join at a time that worked well for them. As you can see, we had great registration numbers for all 3. And the way that we set this up was that if the session itself was full on the Zoom webinar function, that folks could still join and watch live on YouTube, just like we do here with our commission meetings. So as you can see, the number of registrants and attendees varies pretty widely. Usually you can expect about half the number of registrants to actually join. You can see that varies a little bit across all 3 meetings here. But we had really great attendance and really excellent questions and comments that came through that our wonderful team here at the GIC was able to answer live. And get folks the resolutions they needed, the answers they needed live in those sessions. And where there were questions, comments that couldn't be handled immediately, we were able to get those members' contact information or trade contact information and have them reach out so that we could assist them with their individual issues, more what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, it's early for me. So we can assist them directly. Yes, thank you.
You want to be accurate
Yeah.
and on top of it, right?
Yes, thank you. It's hard with a toddler in the mornings. So we had great sessions, and like I said, our wonderful team did an excellent job of answering questions on the spot, and then following up with folks thereafter. Any questions on this slide?
Do you have a sense, Erica, of how this attendee participation met last year's? Was it more or less or same?
Yeah, so I didn't include this on the slide, but we did have it varies. So for some sessions, we definitely had more registrants and attendees than we did for others last year. Overall, we had more registrants than we had in last year. We had slightly less attendees than we had last year. That's okay though, because anyone who registered would also get our follow-up email. that had all the videos, the FAQs, anything like that. So even if they weren't able to attend live, they still got a direct email to say, here, basically, here's what you missed. And not only did they get that email, but all of this information is posted on our website. So it was always available for folks.
Great. Bobby, is that your?
Yes, it's my hand. I was just very curious. I see that approximately 50% of those who registered attended, but the number of registrants, right, or the attendees, is a very small percentage of our population, right? So I'm very curious, sort of what that means. Does it mean that the GIC is providing sufficient information, right, to active employees and to retirees, so that people don't feel they have a need to attend these, or is it something else? Because it's a very small percentage. If we have 250,000 approximately subscribers, and we have 1,600 people attending, that's like very small numbers. I'm very curious sort of what you think about that, or is there a way to find out? Because I think perhaps a lot of people are going to the website and checking, and I'm wondering if we know how many people are looking at the website and the benefit guides online, and therefore getting information and feel they have no questions.
Yeah. So that's a really tough question to answer without being able to kind of be in the heads of all of our subscribers.
Oh, no. I know.
I would like to say that it's because we're getting everybody all the information they need and no one has any questions, and that's wonderful. I do think that there are some folks who don't feel the need to join something like this and have their questions answered because they have a decent understanding, or they don't necessarily care to join something like this, or they feel like they can get the information thereafter. But that would be a really interesting exercise. And I do think that I can talk to Leslie about getting some of the data about our website traffic. I don't have that off the top of my head, to just kind of get a better sense of where folks are spending their time and what they're utilizing most. So I can certainly take that back and work with Leslie to see what we can find there, and we can follow up. Matt, I see you look like you might want to add something.
Yeah, so thank you, Bobby. It's a great set of questions, and ones that have been on my mind as well. I think we can acknowledge that we've made significant strides in member engagement using these new tools. So we're excited to see that. At the same time, to your point, there's a much larger audience that we need to and are reaching with other materials, including our website and our benefit guides. But one of the things that Erica and I have talked about over the last few months is taking an opportunity to learn the lessons of where we've made progress, to highlight areas with member engagement where we can do better. I'd like to do it. We've talked about doing it in a very comprehensive way. So not only reviewing the participation in these virtual sessions, but also a review of all of our member engagement channels. So our benefit guides, you mentioned the materials that are available on our website. There's, of course, a good deal of material that members need to access directly from our carriers. So I think it's a good time for us to kind of take a step back, evaluate the success of our overall strategy, and look to make improvements based on what we know. I will also say that The member benefits portal, of course, don't want that to be lost anywhere in the mix because it really is the centerpiece of our engagement with members, particularly around, conducting their business with the GIC. We've added tools over the last year or so that allow us to draw some really helpful data points on how members use the portal. And that will be really rich information for us to make decisions from. We're also, we have in our mind a set of machine learning tools that we're seeking capital funding for that can enhance our ability to understand how our members use the portal. So there's a great deal of work that's ongoing and still ahead of us to really broadly assess how our members access and use the information that we provide.
All right,
Thank you
Jane,
for that.
Jane,
That'll-
Yeah,
you have
see, I
question?
think this is great that we have this slide in front of us because it does raise questions to explore, as Emily and Vice Chair Kaplan suggest. Because I'm just curious, when I look at registrants, or any of the information in front of me, I'm asking myself, is there a disproportionate impact for retirees? That's always a question in my mind. In terms of when you say the comprehensive strategies that we use to reach our audience, to give us, greater confidence that we're doing our job in that regard. I was even interested in what kind of questions and comments come up. Are there? I'd be curious to know if there
Yep,
are
we have a slide
certain
on that.
themes, certain themes and certain concerns, and that would be helpful. I'm interested in whether or not attendees tend to come from different areas of the state more than others. Is there something there that can inform us? So it's a great slide and I appreciate it, but it does raise questions for us to explore.
Yeah, and those are good points. And one thought is, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that Erica has some of this. So let's let her go through the presentation before we ask some questions. How's that sound?
If I could just make one other comment, and that Jane's comment kind of prompted me to think about, which is, these are all I described a lot of the channels that we have to communicate with our members. We have a number of partners who do the same, right? Our colleagues in labor, our colleagues at Mass Retirees, who are exceptional, I think, in educating their members through their regular newsletter, and they have a weekly YouTube video that Sean Duhamel does that I never miss. So I think even as we evaluate our strategies, I think it's worth also keeping in mind what others are doing and to work in collaboration with them so that we can we're really all headed in the same direction, which is to make sure that our members have the information they need, they're well educated, and not caught off guard by anything.
Thanks, Matt. Leslie, we can move to the next slide. So this is just a little bit about, how we're trying to make sure that materials are accessible to folks. So we had an ASL interpreter, or two actually, and closed captions at each of the sessions. Like I mentioned before, everything was recorded. And we did update our FAQ page this year, and that was much easier for folks to navigate. And so I'd like to think that that's why folks, that was a contributing factor to why folks maybe didn't have as many questions or didn't join in huge numbers. But we still got a really great attendance. And then, like I said, email with all of the resources went out thereafter. So one thing I just wanted to note, and Leslie, you can actually move to the next slide. So here are some of the common themes that we received in our Q&A portion. I wanted to focus down on the retirement portion. As Commissioner Edmonds mentioned, are we getting to our retirees and other categories of members? I would say that the majority of the questions that we get across all sessions are retirement based. And so I actually think that we're getting quite the majority, I would say, and this is kind of anecdotal, but the majority appear to be retirees or approaching retirement. And we do work closely with mass retirees and others to push out this information on the sessions. So that's been really helpful. The other thing we did this year that I was on leave last year, but that we haven't done, at least when I've been involved in this process, is we had links that folks, so our counterparts and other state agencies that would send this out for us to their membership. We had links that were specific to them, so we could tell who was joining or who registered from those links specifically. So we had a good sense of which of those partnerships were especially helpful in getting the word out. And that's something that Leslie set up for us this year. So again, these are just the common themes that we got across all three sessions. And like I said, the retirement piece is really the most common. And we often just ask Paul to go ahead and give his overall retirement rundown. So that way we can address all the questions, but we're also simultaneously answering those questions in the live chat. So those are the three slides that I have for today. As I mentioned, I think the attendance this year was really great. The registrations were higher than last year. And since we've been doing the virtual sessions, the attendance has been wildly bigger than they were when we were in person. And so we're reaching a lot more people through these sessions than we ever were before. And people are really engaged because, of course, when you're meeting live, you can't just ask questions off the top of your head and get them answered immediately. So this is really a benefit for us to be able to hear from our members live and directly and answer them live and directly. So again, another great year, and thanks to the staff, the GIC staff, for answering those questions on the fly. It's kind of like a turtle swimming or a duck swimming. On the surface it looks all calm, and on the bottom everybody's legs are kicking like crazy behind the scenes to get everything answered and done, and everybody did a really excellent job.
Thank you, Erica. Let me just say too, Erica noted that a lot of the questions that we get at these, and this has been a pattern as long as we've been doing them, are around those who are approaching retirement and steps that they need to take, right? And those are a complex set of steps that involve things they have to do with the GIC, but also steps that they need to take regarding Medicare and Social Security. And so it's not surprising that we get a lot of questions about that because it's very complex. And I would say the phone calls that we get, just the general inquiries that we get to the operations unit, many of them are sort of foundational understandings of how insurance works. And so for me, it highlights the need for a sort of broad-based member education about insurance. And that's an ambitious task given how insurance is. But it's really what is driving my thinking about kind of reevaluating all of our materials through their various channels.
Well, that's good, Matt. Thanks, Erica. I don't see any questions, so we can move on. All right, good morning, Jim, Margaret. Some meaty information here on rates.
Yeah, so I'll hand it over to them. And I think once we get to the health insurance rates, we have some preliminary items to discuss, but once we get to the health insurance rates, I'll have a few things to say before we start that piece. Go ahead, Jim.
Thanks, Matt, and good morning, commissioners. Today, Margaret and I will be presenting the GIC rates for FY25, which is an effective date is July 1st, 2024, as you know. This includes information on dental vision rates, which are set by the contract the commission previously approved with MetLife, rates for the GIC's health plans, and subsidies to the rates for our elderly government employees will also be presented and voted on. Finally, we will have a vote on the municipal administration fee. I want to thank the team and our partners at WGW for all the work that went into setting the rates this year. And as usual, it was a cross-organizational and collaborative effort, and we do appreciate that. Next slide, please. These are the dental and vision rates. I won't read each box in these slides. This is informational. We like to have it in the deck so that when the deck is posted, they are there. But as I mentioned, these are set contractually. And on this slide, we have the rates for the retirees, which are unchanged for FY25. Next slide, please. And these are the rates for the active plans, which have a small increase compared to FY24. Next slide, please. And also the individual vision rates, which have not changed from FY24 to FY25, so they will remain the same, again, as set by contract. Next slide, please. And this is doing the math and combining the vision and dental rates for each plan, and it's set forth in this table. Next slide, please. And finally, based on a 15% contribution rate, these are the monthly member contributions. I went through that quickly. Again, we just want to make sure these are in the deck for informational purposes, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. I should mention, I don't think I did, this is the 4th year with the contract with MetLife on these benefits.
Yeah.
Okay. And with that, can we move on to the next slide if there are no questions?
Yeah, I don't see any questions.
Thank you.
It's good negotiating.
Yes, it was a good contract, but we did it a few years ago. Hopefully we do as well when we go back out in a year or so. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Our first requested vote is for the allocation of the rates subsidization reserve to benefit the elderly government retirees. I had a slight delay on my screen, apologize for that. As you may recall, historically, the GIC has used funds previously contributed by EGR members to reduce the premiums for that population. The EGR pool has been retired for quite some time. There are currently 2 people in this pool. There are sufficient funds in the EGR reserve to achieve no change in premiums. This is consistent with the policy and the use of funds we have done in previous years. We propose using the fund as described in this slide to maintain premium levels as has been done historically for the EGRs. Next slide, please. As you can see here, these are what the rates have been and will be for the EGR population, pending approval of the health plan rates later in this meeting. We respectfully request that you approve the motion on the next slide to apply the EGR reserves as set forth. We have made a change this year to this vote since the pool is 2 people now. It's a manageable number. We're asking that you with this vote approve us perpetually keeping the rates at this level going forward, and we would come back to you if there was a reason to change the subsidy or something like that. But we'd like to just put this in for permanence. That these are the rates these folks would, on a permanent basis, these folks would pay. With that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or we can move to a motion.
Yeah. So Eileen has a question. Go ahead.
I'm just curious, how old are these retirees?
Yeah, so they've been retired, I believe, for 40 to 50 years, but they also could have remarriages and whatnot. So it could be a survivor. So I think it's safe to say that they're at least in their 60s or 70s at this point. The 2 folks. But I like so.
Thanks.
And so, Jim, you're asking us to consider not having this vote next year when
Right. Only because we do approve it every year. I think there seems to be a unanimous feel by the commission that we would continue to do this. There's sufficient funds to do this for quite a while in the EGR reserve. So if we wanted to vote that we would we will continue to hold these rates at this level for this population. That was our thought, that we would just vote that now and have that be the case.
And what?
We could still update you every year, of course, on what's going on here.
Yeah, and the size of the fund is it 67,000 or 64?
Two funds with 67,000 in each approximately.
And so then at the point where there are no longer members in EGR, is there like any kind of bylaw or written documentation? What happens to those funds?
So the funds are employee funds. So we would, Andrew and I have talked about this. We'd have to look through the trust agreements and come to you for a vote, right, on how these funds would be used, but they would be returned to the employees in some way. So put into another employee trust fund to benefit the employees generally, or that kind of thing. They would not revert to the state or anything like that. They would stay with the employees. We would come to you with a proposal on how to best apply those funds to perhaps another trust fund that benefits the employees. There are some other existing trust funds that we hold that could be transferred to.
Okay. I don't see any other questions. I am in support of approving this in perpetuity as long as we get an update every year on the funds from I'm sure we're wanting to be, all of us, fiscally responsible for this fund. So but I will entertain a motion by the commissioners.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table that we will approve the spending of the EGRs to stabilize rates. And we reserve these premium support for in perpetuity, so long as there are EGRs and we are apprised of the funds every year. So that's the motion. Approved. First and second by Bobby, and I think I heard Eileen. And now we'll take a vote. Mine, Andrew, is yay. And you can go for roll call. Andrew?
Sorry, I was on mute.
Did I?
Chair Kaplan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Designee Roeder?
Yes.
Designee Butler?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Shabbat?
Yes.
Commissioner Choate?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Edmonds?
Yes.
Commissioner Gentile?
Yes.
Commissioner Guerin?
Yes.
Commissioner McEnany?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy Rodriguez?
Yes.
Commissioner Silva?
Yes.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Yes.
Commissioner Svanenko?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Well, thank you for your thoughtfulness on this, and appreciate all the work, Jim, and let's move on.
Thank you all. We appreciate it. In a moment, I will turn the presentation over to Margaret, who will walk us through the proposed health plan premium rates for FY25. As you may recall from the December meeting, our preliminary forecast was a range of potential increases and of approximately 9.6%. The final portfolio increase came in at about 8.5%. Margaret will provide more details on that momentarily. I'd like to make a couple of other notes before we dig in. As you may have read, Point 32 has acquired HNE, subject to regulatory approval. This process will take some time to weave its way through DOI and get approval. There are no changes, is the point for GIC members. HNE will continue to be offered in our portfolio for the entirety of FY25 and likely beyond. Members who are in HNE and do not want to change plans do not need to take any action during annual enrollment to remain in that plan. So I just want to be clear about that. HNE will continue as is in the portfolio. Unicare has also undergone a corporate name change to WellPoint. Again, the plans are unchanged. This is just a corporate name change, including the actual specific names of the plans, which will remain the same. And as with HNE, if members want to stay in their Unicare /WellPoint plan, They do not need to take any action during annual enrollment. They can just stay in that plan. As always, we do encourage everyone to shop during annual enrollment, but I know people who are in plans might wonder if they need to do anything in order to remain in that plan, and they do not. Next slide, please.
So, hey,
Yes, sorry.
Jim?
Yes.
So I too encourage shopping and having our constituents and our members and maybe, Bobby and others who represent labor can also somehow get the message out to constituents to shop, because as Matt mentioned, an educated member and consumer is desirable for everyone. Matt, did you want to say a few words too?
Yeah, just that, just to note on that point, Madam Chair, that was a central takeaway that we included in the member information sessions. We've said that last year, that it was a great year, an important year really, to evaluate options with the changes that we had. For this year, with the rate increases that we're looking at, an equally important year for members to shop among their options.
Okay. Thanks.
And I do want to say a word here, but I don't want to get in front of you kind of wrapping up your introduction, Jim.
No, go ahead, man.
Okay. So before we go on, I just want to say a couple of words here. So in some ways, this is a fairly routine vote for the commission. At its core, it's the result of a 5-month math exercise, and Margaret will talk a little bit more about the steps in the process, really remind you all. But the work that we do starting in September is informed heavily by the actuary team at Willis Towers Watson. They help us understand emerging trends, and our responsibility is to produce premium rates for your consideration that are sufficient to cover the expected costs, healthcare costs for our members. So it's a routine matter. At the same time, clearly this year, it's not as routine. So we see a set of dynamics, a set of challenges that have emerged in the healthcare marketplace in Massachusetts and elsewhere over the last really 10 to 12 months that have produced a fairly significant acceleration of trend that we see in the rates that we're presenting to you today. So while more than a point lower than what we projected in December, the increases that we review in a moment do present a cost increase for our members and for the state budget. And over the long term, that trend, if not addressed, is unsustainable. I think we should all acknowledge that. As we have said many times before, the GIC is not alone in this. These are increases consistent with what other large employers are seeing, as well as state employees and retirees across the country. Unfortunately, from where I sit, these trends are not improving anytime soon and could actually accelerate in the coming years. As we have also said many times in these meetings, a broad system challenge such as this really requires broad system solutions, and those really require policy changes, and only policymakers can make those policy changes. As I'm sure you can appreciate, the likelihood of those changes happening and being implemented in the near term is uncertain. Therefore, I don't think it's in our best interest to wait, and we're not waiting. The GIC team has been actively working on steps that we can take within our statutory authority to address these emerging trends. I expect that you'll begin to hear from us over the coming fiscal year about what those steps could look like. In the meantime, we're asking you to approve these rates, and my hope is that we will do so with a unanimous vote. So that said, I acknowledge that for some of you, a yes vote on an increase that's an 8.5% is a difficult yes vote. We all know this represents a hardship for our members and represents increasing reliance on state budget resources, which themselves are also quite limited. But a yes vote in favor here is not an affirmation that these rates and the costs to our members in the state is acceptable. So we take this seriously, understand that this is not sustainable, and I know that your expectation of us as a staff is to present you with solutions. I think the good news here is that there are steps that we can take at the GIC to address these. And we are working very closely with our colleagues in state government to develop solutions that we can bring to you. Most private employers faced with increases of this sort would address them by raising member copays and deductibles. In my view, those types of actions are short-sighted. They have a significant impact on our members and ultimately don't address the root causes of rising costs. So we have resisted doing that in this case. I also believe that we've done everything responsibly within our power using the traditional tools of insurance to solve this, but clearly that they aren't enough. So in addition to asking for a unanimous vote today, I would ask for your patience as we continue our work on real meaningful solutions that we can bring back to you. I acknowledge that a yes vote may be uncomfortable, but what I'd recommend is that we use that discomfort, channel that discomfort to fuel us, our determination to really do meaningfully things to address the forces that really produce these rates. So with that, happy to turn it back to Jim and to Margaret to kind of go through the next portion of the presentation.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. Very briefly, here is the outline of the presentation. Margaret will lead us through. We have a brief review of the development process and the timeline and the factors that go into developing these rates, as well as, of course, the summary results. Following that is a table with the full cost premiums for the non-Medicare and Medicare rates. And finally, after that, a discussion and a proposed motion to vote on the rates themselves. Then I will be back to talk about the municipal administration fee. And with that, I will turn it over to Margaret. Margaret?
Thanks, Jim. Good morning, commissioners. Next slide, please. Great. All right, well, as you are all aware, the purpose of this presentation is to discuss and vote on the FY25 premiums. I will be presenting rates in our non-Medicare for our commercial portfolio. These are products with active employees as well as non-Medicare eligible retirees. And I will also be presenting Medicare rates for our retirees. Our actuarial consultants at Willis Towers Watson develop our rates annually. These rates are a function of prior year's utilization, anticipated members within each plan, medical inflation, and trends we expect to see in claims in the next year. As a reminder, we did not propose any changes to our benefit design for FY25, so all of our plans remain the same in terms of coverage. Next slide, please. Before we jump into the rates, a quick reminder on how we got here. Our rate setting process takes about 6 months. Between September and December, Willis Towers Watson requests data from our carriers and PBM to prepare status quo rates. In addition to claims data, WTW also incorporates adjustments for any expected changes in the market, such as the introduction or adoption of new drugs. This sets a baseline for us to develop and evaluate the projected plan costs for the coming fiscal year. You will recall that in December, we presented to you an estimated range of 8 to 11% of an increase across the portfolio. Our final increase comes in at a weighted average of 8.5%. This includes all products, commercial and Medicare. So staying with the timeline here, in January, we bring any proposed design change for discussion. There were none this year. February is when we often hold a vote on these design changes, but again, there were no such changes proposed this year. That gets us to today, where you're here to vote on rate changes for the next fiscal year. Next slide, please. Before we look at the rates, I have a few definitional slides to run through quickly. As you know, a premium is the amount of money that is needed to pay for provider services and for medications. Premiums do not include out-of-pocket expenses such as copays and deductibles. And most of our members pay only a portion of the premium costs, the state picking up the largest share of the premium as part of our members' benefit package. I'll note here that municipalities set their own contribution rates independently. Next slide, please. Another definitional slide here. This is a reminder that the GIC's portfolio is self-insured, with the exception of our one Medicare Advantage product. As such, the Commonwealth takes the risk with respect to healthcare spending exceeding premiums. Next slide. Okay, a little background on what is driving these premium increases. First and foremost, we continue to see substantial provider consolidation in Massachusetts. The market power of large medical systems is one major driver of premium increases. Large systems can extract higher rates. In the fall, you heard the Health Policy Commission talk about the market dynamics that challenge affordability. Just as important to note, pharmacy spending continues to drive trend, particularly brand name and specialty drugs. We'll hear more on this trend in Massachusetts at our June meeting when CHIA will present its statewide data on pharmaceutical spending. Next slide, please. Now we're going to walk through, at a high level, a view of our portfolio rates across commercial and Medicare products. For this slide, we will be discussing the rate increase in terms of percentage increase, coupled with the total number of members in each percentage increase bucket. In later slides, we will discuss the premium amount and the increase associated with each product. So what I hope you will take away from the graph here is that there is substantial variation across the portfolio in terms of the premium increase a member may see. This variation runs from 1 to 2% on the left side of the graph to over 10% on the right side of the graph. Again, it's important to understand that this variation exists because it shows that increases really vary across our products and our membership. Directing your attention to the graph, you'll see percentages listed along the bottom, 1 to 2%, 3 to 4%, all the way to the right side of the graph with our 10+% increase.
Wow.
The number at the top of the bar is how many members fall into each bucket based on FY24 enrollment. For example, with the third bar from the left, we see that 77,230 members will see a 4 to 5% premium increase should they stay in the same plan they were in for fiscal year 24. Now that we're oriented to the graph, I want to pull out a few key points. Across our Medicare and commercial products, the weighted average increase is 8.5%. In December, we brought you the expected range of an 8 to 11% increase. While 8.5 is on the low end of this range, we recognize that this is still a substantial increase to our members and it will be felt. But again, it's important to look at the distribution of these increases to get a sense of the variation. We'll see on the left side of the graph that 45% of our members are expected to see a rate increase of less than 5%. On the other side of the graph, we see that 13% of our members will see a rate increase of greater than 10%. For these members, especially, we encourage them to shop, as well as anyone who is concerned with the increase in their product. They need to shop and see if their needs in terms of provider access, copays, and deductibles could be met with a different product. Next slide, please. So now that you have a sense of the variation in premium increases, here's a slide that shows the total premium amount for each individual commercial product. You can see that there is a substantial dollar amount difference between our cheapest product on the left and our most costly on the right. This is due in large part to the different benefit designs, including deductibles, copays, and the relative expansiveness of provider networks. If a member wants broad provider access and lower copays, they may be more interested in the products listed on the right, whereas the products on the left generally have relatively narrow network and higher out-of-pocket costs. This is all in keeping with the GIC's priority to offer meaningful choice to our members. So please remember that each of these products has its own distinguishing underlying features that contribute to its rates. Again, we encourage members to shop, but to shop on more than just price, making sure that their doctors are in network and that they are comfortable with the out-of-pocket structure of the product they select. Turning to the graph now. Reading from left to right, again, we can see that the relationship between product type and the associated premium. Community Choice and Harvard Pilgrim Quality are the narrow networks. Although with Community Choice, of course, members can see out-of-network providers but have to pay co-insurance. Health New England is a regional plan. Since it's a Western Massachusetts plan, many of the highest cost providers are excluded or allowed only in cases of medical necessity. WellPoint Plus, MGB Health Plan, and Harvard Pilgrim Explorer offer broad network coverage and accordingly cost more than our regional and narrow products. Harvard Pilgrim Access America is our national product. And finally, Total Choice is our highest actuarial value plan, although there are geographic restrictions on membership. So these are the actual rates for individuals, the full premium rate, not the member contribution. Next slide, please. The same product type considerations that were discussed in the prior slide with the individual rates apply across the relative price of the family premiums. I'm not going to run through them again, but again, these are the full premium rates and not reflective of member contribution. Next slide, please. And here we are. These are the final rates for our commercial products that you will vote on shortly. The weighted average increase for these products is 9.5%. Putting this in context, the most recent data from the top benefit consulting firms, Willis Towers Watson, Aon, Mercer, PwC, and peers, projects a 6.4 to 8.5% increase nationally for large employers in the commercial market. Whereas last year we came in under the expected range, this year we're higher. I don't want to speculate too much on why this would be, but of course we have dynamics specific to Massachusetts that would drive our medical trend. You will see the product name in the second column from the left. The rates that you are voting on are listed in the second column from the right. Again, this is the full premium amount, and in the rightmost column is the percentage increase for each product over FY24 rates. As I've noted in multiple places already, there is considerable range in the rate increase of each product, with Total Choice coming in with the highest increase at 11.7%, and Health New England coming in with the lowest percentage at 5.9%. These increases are related to market factors discussed at the top of the presentation, large provider systems, market power, pharmacy spending, as well as member utilization within each plan. Again, these products vary both by their actuarial value and their network reach. So while it's important to consider premiums when shopping for a plan, members who are considering switching plans should also verify that any product they're contemplating will also meet their needs in terms of provider network coverage. Next slide, please. And here are the products with their monthly premium broken out by member contribution. Although please note that these contribution rates are for state employees only and that munis set their own contribution rates. Next slide. Here are the final rates for our Medicare products, with the average increase this year at 4.1%. The supplement products all offer nearly the same coverage and cost close to the same dollar amount. But remember, please, that utilization, in particular pharmacy utilization, may vary across these plans and drive the variable rate increase between products. And of course, we have our sole fully insured product, the Tufts Health Plan Medicare Advantage product, here with a 3.1% increase. Next slide. And here's our final slide before the vote or before discussion. This shows Medicare rates by contribution ratio, again, for state employees only. And that concludes my portion of the presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, that was a lot of numbers, Margaret.
It's a lot to digest.
So, Margaret, I have a question.
Please.
I have a couple, actually. So I'm curious how many employees are still in the 10% and 15% range?
Sure, I have that for you.
Oh, great.
State employees at the 10% range, we have 1,600 subscribers. The 15%, we have 20,698 subscribers. 20%, 33,243. And at 25%, 31,827. I don't know if these are subscribers, not members.
Right. Great. Thank you very much for that. So, you know, I'm very curious about the community choice, right?
Yes.
Which is a very narrow plan, has a very high increase. And, you know, that's concerning because people select the narrow plan to save money and to pay less. Yet the percentage increase is very high.
Yes.
And I also wanted to comment on the Medicare increase as well, because I want to remind people that the retirees don't receive any, once they retire, their pension remains just about the same. It does not change because the policymakers, right, the legislature only provides the COLA on the first $13,000 of a pension. Okay, so literally people who retire from state government who are compensated less than the private sector, the value of their pension decreases over time because it doesn't change. And so to have an increase of, you know, 4% for retirees, it's huge.
Yeah.
Even 3%, it's a huge, right? And it's not the GIC. I appreciate, first of all, Matt's comments and his direction and the direction of the commission and all the effort that has been placed into, you know, sort of keeping costs down as much as possible. And we on the labor side, you know, appreciate that the plan design, the co-pays, the deductibles are remaining the same, right? That's very important. However, the increases, when you look at the salaries, right, for state employees, that are certainly below the private sector. And we have, even though a lot of people may know we got a decent increase for the first time in, I would say, decades, it only brought us up to what we have lost in the last few administrations. And so the increases are huge. And we're on the labor side, we are well aware that much of it is caused by provider consolidation, hospital mergers, the pharmaceutical costs, which are mind-boggling. However, for those of us in state government and those of us who have retired from state government, the increases are huge. That's what I will say. They are huge. And even though I appreciate everything the commission has done and is doing to contain costs, for those of us who have, you know, spent years in the public sector, the increases are significantly more than any increases that we have received or might receive in the future. So I want to remind people of that. And the majority, I don't know what the percent is, but the majority of state employees have no Social Security, right? So keep that in mind. Their pension is it.
Yeah.
You know?
Bobby, I see some other questions here. So
Sure.
Eileen, go ahead and ask your question.
I guess mine is more of a comment, and I would just say, I think that these rates are pretty concerning for a few reasons. I think about if the GIC is experiencing rates of this magnitude like the small group and broader market are probably much larger than that. And I just think it's unsustainable. I would agree with your comments, Matt, about the need for systemic change. And I hope that the GIC will act as kind of a change agent in this regard, because I think the cost of health insurance has become a drag on our economy. I mean, people are losing discretionary income. It's eating up more of their compensation, and they have less access. Something's got to give here, and I hope that the GIC will actively engage to solve this.
Yeah, I agree. Liz, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want, as a labor commission, I just want to echo what Bobby and Eileen are mentioning, because that is a huge concern out in the field with our older boomers going out the door, young families, unsustainable between that, daycare. It is, like Eileen said, something's got to give, because this is ridiculous. I don't know where the money is funneling to, but certainly not into the members and to their benefit. So, and I do appreciate what Matt has done. He's a hard worker, but I just have to say I support both their positions totally.
Yeah. Yeah, the marketplace is concerning. There's much agreement there. Do I have any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Jane.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Toby.
I don't know who I suspect to direct this to Matt is. I mean, what's the administration's reaction to these rates and the overall impact of the budget? Are we going back to the days where we underfund things and kind of go back for supplementals, or is there something broader happening? I mean, this is not in a vacuum here.
Yeah, so I won't presume to speak on behalf of the administration, not my role to do so. And of course, while we exist within state government, we're a little bit different as a quasi that reports to you as a board. So I can tell you that I have, as executive director of the GIC, raised the level of concern that I have for the GIC and expressed the need for a systemic approach to cost containment, which is a policy focus. And I think beyond that, I would defer to perhaps my colleagues at ANF. That's a broader question, Toby, than really is within my purview. But I do think that Eileen's comment earlier is a really important one, that if this is what the GIC is experiencing, and in particular, the claims experience that we see over the last 8 to 10 months, then that should be a bit of a warning sign for what is likely to happen in the merged market of individual and small groups. So they set their rates with filings to the DOI last spring. And that was actually the time when we really started to see some acceleration of these trends, the introduction of the weight loss drugs that now add 7.5%. This is one category of drugs for one condition, adds $60 million to our spend and 7.5% increase to our prescription drug spend. So these are things that we've experienced and seen over time, and I would fully expect that these are trends that will affect the merch market and the rest of the market in the months and years to come.
Cassandra, I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. So first I'd like to echo, many of the comments that have been made today and express on behalf of my office and the administration that, of course, we understand the market conditions driving these rate increases and those are beyond the GIC's control. Even so, the steep increases that we're seeing here are extremely concerning from an affordability standpoint, to your point, Toby. And, as multiple people have mentioned, these rates are going to impact member costs and they're also going to increase the Commonwealth's costs. So for this reason, I would ask that the GIC continue to monitor the trends closely in the coming months, especially as planning is beginning for FY26, and place possible solutions, any steps that the GIC can take to affect rates, as Executive Director Vino alluded to and mentioned at the outset, on the commission's agenda going forward. I think that's a really important conversation for us to be having. And in terms of any immediate impact on the budget, our budget team at ANF will continue to work very closely with Jim and the team at the GIC. No immediate steps need to be taken, but we're prepared to keep a close eye on things over the next month and the next couple of fiscal years. And I just, while I'm commenting, I want to thank the GIC team for their hard work, because I know that they're always watching trends closely and prioritizing affordability. So thank you.
All right. Jane, go ahead. I see you have your hand up.
Yeah. And in some ways, I'm echoing some of the comments that have been made so far. Matt's right. It's a difficult decision. Where I'm coming from, in speaking to those who represent the retiree community, I get this, especially the Mass Retirees Association, I come away with a clear sense that they, as well as I, look forward to continuing to work with GIC to find, different ways to gain control over future cost increases. And, I think everybody appreciates the careful and thoughtful approach that the GIC's taken, and Matt, to lessen the impact of higher costs on retirees. And so, I don't think any of us wants to see costs rise, but spreading the costs out through the rates, I think, makes some sense. I voted no last year, but I'm inclined to vote yes, because I think it's important that we take that position for all the reasons that we've discussed up to now.
All right. Thanks, Jane. Go ahead, Rebecca. I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what others have said here and agree with Designee Roeder that we appreciate the monitoring of the market, and these are very difficult, complex issues, and I think the administration and everyone's working very hard to try to work through them the best that we can.
Yeah, I don't see any other hands up. I don't disagree with what's been said. I do want to encourage us to be as aggressive as we can be, to think about new ways to engage with our members and the plans, because these rates aren't sustainable, and it's not just a GIC phenomena, it is a market phenomena, and it's definitely concerning across the state, whether we're part of the GIC here today or outside of it. It's difficult for all of us to see these increases in health insurance, and it does take away quality of life. I think what Eileen was saying for our members. So I don't see any other comments. May I entertain a motion to approve these? Is there more slides here? Margaret and Jim?
I think the next slide is the motions. Yeah.
Yeah. So at this point, I will entertain a motion that we approve the recommended fiscal year 25 full cost premiums as shown on slides 31 and 33.
So moved.
So moved.
So I think I heard Cassandra and Bobby.
Tamara.
Tamara?
Yep.
All right, so at this point, I'll turn it over to Andrew for roll call, but I'm a yay.
Vice Chair Kaplan,
I am voting no, although I appreciate Matt's, request that it be unanimous, but I cannot, representing my members, the increase is too huge, and I appreciate everything that Matt has done, that everyone at the GIC has done, all the research and, effort, as I said before, but I have to vote against the increases.
Designee Roder,
Yay.
Designee Butler,
Yay.
Commissioner Shabbat,
No.
Commissioner Choate,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Edmond,
Yes.
Commissioner Gentile,
No.
Commissioner Giron,
No.
Commissioner Jennings. Oh, I'm sorry, she's not here. Commissioner McEnany,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy Rodriguez,
Yes.
Commissioner Silva,
Yes.
Commissioner Sullivan,
No.
Commissioner Semenko.
Yes.
The motion passes with 5 in opposition.
All right. Well, appreciate the discussion and the messages that have been shared. Matt and team, you have been working hard. We appreciate that. And as I've said, these times require us as a commission to think outside the box, and we empower you and besiege you maybe to come back to us with, I know the legislator type approach for rate control might not be an option, but come to us with some innovative solutions that that truly can be a way to potentially stave off some of these rate increases in the future.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Challenge accepted. Thank you, commissioners. I believe there's one more step here with the municipal administrative fee. Jim?
Oh, there we go. There I am. Hello again, everyone. The final item we're requesting approval for is the municipal administration fee. We are requesting the commission to authorize the GIC to set the fee paid by municipalities to support the costs incurred by the GIC to administer the municipal benefits program. Next slide, please. The fee was 0.3% of premiums in FY24. We request the fee remain unchanged. This rate will allow the GIC to collect the required amount to cover administrative expenses associated with the program while not exceeding the legislative cap. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So I don't see any. This may be a moot question given the rate increases. However, if we charged 1%, which is what we're authorized by statute, it looks like it may generate closer to 7 or 8 million. Fuzzy math here. Could that be used to offset some of the rate increases? Is there a statute of what we could use that funding for?
No, it couldn't. We have a cap as to what we can collect, so the fee is actually a byproduct of the cap. So we can collect up to 2.1 million to administer the program. If we collect, say we collected 7 million, that would not come to the GIC to affect rates. It would go into general revenue. So we set the fee to basically make the cap to work up to that number based on the level of premiums. That's
Okay,
why
so-
every few years we change the fee in order to make that equation work.
Okay. I don't see any questions. We've had some good stability in our municipalities, so they must appreciate this as well. So at this point, if we don't have any discussion, do you want to move to the next slide and entertain a motion? All righty. So the motion is to authorize the GIC to set the muni administrative fee this year to 0.3% of the full cost premiums. I'll turn it over to Andrew for a roll call, but I vote yay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vice Chair Kaplan,
Yay.
Designee Roder,
Yay.
Designee Butler,
Yay.
Commissioner Shabbat,
Yes.
Commissioner Choate,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Edmond,
Yes.
Commissioner Gentile,
Yes.
Commissioner Guerin,
Yes.
Commissioner McEnany,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy Rodriguez,
Yes.
Commissioner Silva,
So he stepped away after the health insurance premium rate vote.
okay, Commissioner Sullivan,
Yes.
and Commissioner Sineko.
Yep.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Jim and Margaret.
All right, next item is the other business. I think, Jim, you had one thing you wanted to flag here in other business.
Yes, I did. Thank you. So since we have a little break here before we'll be back together, as you may recall from the dental premium slides that seemed like quite a while ago, we were in the 4th year of that program with MetLife, which means we'll be getting ready to procure those benefits, which the first step of doing that is to get a dental vision consultant on board. And we will be probably during the time we don't meet posting a notice to Combis, letting people know that we're going to be coming with an RFP. As you may recall, it's a 2-step process. We post a notice and then later we post an RFP process. So we usually want to let you know that that might happen while we're on our break here. If you have any questions about that, the dental vision consultant or anything else, you can let us know. We're happy to answer them even outside of this meeting. Also an update, I misspoke earlier and somebody looked up for me on my staff. I appreciate the EGRs. There was a question about the ages there and I had the wrong 2 EGRs. These EGRs are in their 90s now. So I just want to be clear on the two remaining EGRs. So a little clarification there.
Excellent.
So you have any questions on the dental vision or anything else? I'm happy to answer them here. Or after here if you come up with questions later.
I don't see any, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, Matt, do you have any other business?
No other business, Madam Chair. We can move to adjournment.
Okay, well, I would like to express my concerns for the ongoing escalation of health premiums, concerns to what that means for the state budget and for our members collectively. So please note, Matt, that the commissioners are looking for your leadership from an innovation perspective, and we hope that within the next few meetings, you can come back to us and alert us to what you might be working to do to make next year's rates not be at the same level. And hopefully, Cassandra, you can, and Rebecca from other state agency, you can help support Matt and his team to do that. So at this point, not seeing any other business, I am going to request a motion to adjourn, formally ending this meeting.
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, all in favor, you just say aye. We don't need roll call.
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, so the ayes have it. This meeting is officially adjourned. We will see you on May 16th.
Yay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
All right,
Bye.
bye-bye.